Hey guys, we're back and we're about to get into Kong Skull Island. Technically a prequel to Godzilla because it's set in the 60s, I believe. 50s or 60s. It starts in the 50s and jumps to the 60s and all that, or 70s, one of the two. But we get introduced to Kong. It's not actually a retread for once of the Kong formula.
Oh, that ought to be interesting.
Yep, there's gonna be a lot of Marvel actors in there. It's even more so. You're gonna have Sam Jackson, Brie Larson, and Tom Holland. Wait, not Tom Holland. Loki. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston. He's in there as well. So this it's gonna be fun. Trust me on this one. This one's gonna be a lot more action. We're gonna see Kong very early on,
Ah, excellent.
and yeah, there's gonna be some. It's gonna be really fun and just balls to the wall. I mean, it's gonna be more of a broad stroke of the King Kong story, except never bringing him back off the island. So yeah, we'll see how it is. I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy it. I've seen it. I know it's gonna be good. So see you guys on the other end.
He knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu takes on his multi-armed form. He says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Hey guys, we just got done seeing Skull Island and
It was good. It was really good.
very good. It basically fixed a lot of mistakes from Godzilla, and it also broad stroke the King Kong story without flying, no pun intended, aping it. I mean, what did you like best?
I feel like I liked the fact that,
The characters probably were.
it sort of felt like when compared to the previous Kong, that one sort of felt like had much more like a sort of like, I don't know, metaphorical parable kind of feel to it, whereas this one kind of felt like it was more like, hey, we're building out a world here.
Exactly, and let's also be blunt. This is basically Kong being a kaiju, where he's a giant monster. He's not just a 25-foot ape. He's like huge, and he's still growing, as we find out. He's still a teenager.
Yeah.
Much like though the Peter Jackson Kong, he's the last of his kind, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it's set during the time of Nam, and I gotta say that was a good comparison. When you say, right as we're pulling out of Nam, so many of the characters were good. Brie Larson was very good.
Which is something you never thought you would hear us say on the show.
Yeah, because I mean, when we saw Captain Marvel, she was all right, but just so wooden. But here, she had personality. She had spunk. Even when she talked about how deep her character was, you're like, oh, she gave it some thought. I mean, she plays a photographer. You have Tom Hiddleston, who's basically being the badass captain. You have Sam Jackson. Yeah, the three Marvel tie-ins. You have Sam Jackson, who's playing this very broken captain, or colonel, or corporal, one of the positions. Right as they're pulling out of Nam, and he feels like we lost all these people for what? The pullout? Which a lot of people felt that way after Nam. And of course, he blames people like Brie Larson's character for, her camera getting people to turn against the war and pull them out. Now, let's be honest, though. That war wasn't going to go anywhere, to be honest.
It really wasn't.
unfortunately, people like him, when you lose that many men, yeah. Now, of course, he felt like one more thing. This will be a cakewalk. Give my boys something to chill out on.
Yeah, no.
Nope. And John Goodman, I like John Goodman, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Like basically, he's the head guys of Monarch, the organization that was introducing Godzilla, trying to get funding by going to Skull Island and taking photos. Mm-hmm. But as soon as they got there, Kong attacks and he wipes out 3/4 of the expedition, which was a bit surprising. But again, the thing about Kong here is that he's so, I gotta say, well handled. Like he's a teenager. He's not a grown ape. He's not he hasn't been that experienced. In fact, he's lost most of his loved ones from the Skullcrawlers. You know, the giant creatures we saw at the end. Also, John C. Reilly's character. We introduced to him a different actor, of course, but his character at the beginning where they were in World War II, him and a Japanese soldier both landed on the island. And as soon as they meet Kong, they're like, okay, let's not fight anymore. But when you see him, you think he's going to be the dumb comic relief, this insane guy who's just going to be spouting nonsense. And he does, but he's more the guy who's like, I know what's going on here. These natives aren't going to tell you jack, but I can tell you what I picked up from them. And again, it just played out very well.
It did.
Now, were there any flaws you saw with this movie? I mean, because I'm sure there are going to be people wondering, why not a perfect 10?
I feel like there were definitely some places where the pacing was a little bit off and things were just a little bit too corny even for the tone that they were going for.
Especially with Riley's character, right?
Indeed.
But, and I gotta say also, a lot of just gratuitous death, if you ask me. A lot of
it's just like, oh, did we really need to get that
Now,
graphic?
they did handle a lot better in the Peter Jackson version of setting up doomed characters. Would you agree with that at least? That
this one definitely
they gave you just enough.
a lot of the fat.
They just gave you just enough without having to pile it on. And when they do die, you're like, aw. Especially when some of them are like, yeah, they made it, and dead. Like the one guy with the mustache and everything. He makes it all the way to the bone, and he gets yanked. Not only does he get yanked off, he then gets sliced and diced by these pterodactyl things. I'm like,
yeah, that seems a little bit overdoing.
And then Sam Jackson's character, I both felt bad for him, and yet I hated him.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I get it. You lost people, you have PTSD, but don't drag everyone else into that.
Exactly. That's the reason why most of the men then turned on him once it was made very clear, like, you just can't be following his orders just because he's your commander and seeing you through so much. He's lost it. And then you had the other guy who was ready to commit suicide, and it was all for nothing. You know, the guy with the grenades that got knocked away. He was like, aw. But by the end of it, I think this was a good setup for, well, obviously we'll be getting in a few more days. And, yeah, overall, I agree, 8 out of 10. It's very solid. A very solid movie. And, yeah, I do think we've saved the best for last coming up next, as we'll be going over Godzilla, King of the Monsters. We'll see you guys there.